Greetings linguists, speechmeisters, ballonistas. In this video, we'll be continuing to look at the French verb tense, le passé composé. In part 3, we're going to look at past participle verbs which use être as the auxiliary instead of avoir. When teaching French, these verbs are sometimes known as Vandertramp verbs, or when I was learning, we called them advent verbs. Both names are intended to help you remember which verbs use être as the auxiliary instead of avoir. And I'll talk about the pros and cons of each in this video and what I recommend. First, an example. Je suis arrivé à Bordeaux. I have arrived in Bordeaux. Notice that in the perfect tense in English, we always use have as the auxiliary. So although literally the French looks like I am arrived, it translates to I have arrived. And as I said in previous videos on the Passé Composé, this form in spoken everyday French is also used to translate the English past definite tense as well. So, je suis arrivé à Bordeaux also translates as I arrived in Bordeaux. Forming the Passé Composé with être is more or less the same as when using avoir, with a couple of small details which only really matter in writing for the most part. But I think it's important to be aware of them. The basic structure is still subject plus auxiliary plus past participle. So let's look at the structure. Je is the subject. The auxiliary verb is suis. This is the present tense of être. First person singular, je suis. And arriver is the main verb in the past participle form. The verb arriver is one of the verbs which uses the auxiliary être instead of avoir. The extra detail is that an ending is added to the past participle to agree with the gender and number of the subject. An E is added for feminine subjects and an S for plurals, or both for feminine and plural. In spoken French, it will sound the same in many cases anyway. So step 1 is to use the present tense of être, to be, as the auxiliary verb instead of avoir. Je suis, tu es, elle est, il est, on est for singular subjects. And for plural subjects, nous sommes, vous êtes, elles sont, ils sont. And step 2, add the past participle form of the main verb. For example, arrivé, arrived. Sorti, gone out. Venu, came. And step 3, if the subject is feminine, add an E, and if it's plural, add an S. If the subject is both feminine and plural, then add E and then S. In short, these endings on past participles behave exactly like they do with adjectives. Arrivé, arrived. Sorti, gone out. Venu, came. Some more examples. Je suis arrivé à Bordeaux, feminine singular. I have arrived in Bordeaux. An extra E is added, but it sounds the same. Or, nous sommes sortis, masculine plural. We have gone out. An S is added, but it sounds the same. And lastly, elles sont retournées, feminine plural. They have returned. Here, ES is added, but it still sounds the same. So the big question is, how do you know which verbs use the auxiliary être? There are two well-known mnemonics to help you learn and remember. Both have their drawbacks, but here they are. The first one is advent. Each letter of advent stands for the first letter of 6 verbs which all use être. In addition, the opposite of these verbs make for another 6, making 12 verbs in total. So we start with arriver, to arrive, partir, to leave, descendre, to go down, monter, to go up, venir, to come, aller, to go, entrer, to go in, sortir, to go out, naître, to be born, mourir, to die, tomber, to fall, rester, to stay. And here are the past participles of these advent verbs. Arrivé, arrived, parti, left, descendu, gone down, monté, gone up, venu, come, aller, gone, entré, gone in, sorti, gone out, né, born, mort, died, tombé, fallen, resté, stayed. There are some drawbacks, potential banana skins or things to bear in mind. The last pair, tomber and rester, are not exactly opposites, so it's a bit of a stretch. You have to remember that the first A is arriver, not aller, which can mean you get stuck later. One way to deal with this is to start at the bottom and work up. Then you come to venir and its opposite aller. And then the only other A has to be arriver. Also, you have to add some other verbs to these 12. Firstly, verb number 13, retourner, has to be tacked on, plus any derivations of these verbs, such as rentrer, to go in again, or to go back, or devenir, to become, or renaître, to be born again, or to be reborn. You can add the prefix re to a few of these. Then you have to include all reflexive verbs. That means a lot more verbs, but it's an easy rule to remember. A few more example sentences. Je suis resté chez nous. I've stayed at home, or I stayed at home, masculine form. Tu es sorti avec tes copines? Have you gone out, or did you go out with your friends? Feminine form. Ils sont partis pour Bruxelles. They've left for Brussels. Or they left for Brussels, feminine plural form. Okay, so now let's look at the other way of remembering verbs which take the auxiliary être. This method is called Vandertramp. Similar to Advent, take each letter of the name Vandertramp and start one of the verbs with this letter. So van, venir, arriver, naître. De, descendre, entrer, retourner. Tramp, tomber, rester, aller, mourir, partir. The first issue here is that this only covers 11 verbs. Advent covers 12. So Vandertramp has been extended to Mrs. Vandertramp. Now we have 3 extra verbs. Mrs. Monter, rentrer, sortir. Now Mrs. Vandertramp is winning. 14 verbs to Advent's 12. But still, we're not quite there. And so Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp adds 2 more. Doctor, devenir, revenir. Now it's 16 verbs to 12. And here's a picture of Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp. Some people call it Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp to say that Mrs. Vandertramp is a doctor herself rather than her husband, which sounds a bit more modern. But perhaps the stereotype helps people to remember it better. And that's the problem with the Vandertramp mnemonic. For me, it feels quite a convoluted mnemonic. I've seen Vandertramp, Mrs. Vandertramp, Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp. I've even seen Dr. and Mrs. P. Vandertramp, and I've no idea what the P stands for. Because we have a P for partir at the end already. I think it stands for passé, because passé in some contexts takes être. But then if you go down that road, you have to include décéder, to decease, which no one ever talks about. You also have to know how to spell Vandertramp, which means you need to know that de is spelled D-E-R and not D-E, and that it's tramp, not trump. It's a tricky business. It's supposed to help you remember verbs conjugated with être, but it's pretty hard to remember the mnemonic itself. On the plus side, retourner is included, so you don't need to tack that on. Also, it includes derivations such as devenir and revenir. However, it doesn't include all of them, renaître, for example. The point is that with prefixes, you can add them onto verbs all over the place, so it seems a bit silly to include some of the derivations and not all. And don't forget, we still have to add the reflexive verbs, but again, that feels straightforward to me. Et voilà, that's it. Personally, I feel that my brain copes with Advent better. But the best way to learn? Here's my recommendation. Look at both Advent and Vandertramp. Laugh at them, be critical of them, complain about them. In doing so, by getting emotionally caught up in it, you'll end up remembering all of it anyway. You want to get to the stage where you just know which verbs use être. So treat these mnemonics as stepping stones on your journey. Check out my other videos on the Passé Composé. Please like and subscribe. And if you can think of a better way to remember which verbs take être, I would love you to post it in the comments. See you soon. Au revoir. Ciao, ciao.
Devenir, revenir, monter, rester, sortir, venir. Aller, naître, descendre, entrer, rentrer. Tomber, retourner, arriver, mourir et partir. Devenir, revenir, monter, rester, sortir, venir.